Our invocation today will be from Pastor Robert Carter.
Thank you, Your Honor. Let's pray. Father God, we thank you for this day. What a beautiful day. We ask that you would just continue to bless us. We're so thankful for this past weekend we've had with Easter. And Father, we help that you would just, we pray that you would just be with us as we as a club just take advantage of all the opportunities that we have to serve this community. We love this community. We love being servants of this community. We thank you for the food, for the opportunity we have to share it together. We pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. And now for the pledge. Salute arms. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, I usually have to give you the sad news that I'm also your sergeant at arms, that I'm not, but to make it better, Miss Patty Beth is here today.
She is! Yes!
That's $1. This.
What?
Well, I think it's actually going to probably go up from that, because I'm also not going to stand up here and sing. So I think that's like $2.05. So.
I am all in. Well, we could probably find everybody here that does not read your Rotary magazine from cover to cover. Because if you read your magazine from cover to cover this month, you will know there is quite a large article. Who knows what's in there? On singing at the Rotary meetings. 1905, a guy named Harry Ruggles was at a rather boring meeting in Chicago, Club Number 1, and he decided to shake things up. And so he pulled up a chair, jumped in it, and sang, "Let Me Call You Sweetheart." So in honor of singing since 1905, here we go. And they did not have PowerPoint slides then, so you have to sing this from your heart. Here we go. Let me call you sweetheart, I'm in love with you. Let me, you whisper that you love me too. Keep the love light glowing in your eyes so blue. Let me call you sweetheart, I'm in love with you.
Now,
Did you get far enough away?
well, I was going to say hello to one of our students this month. So they're just welcoming them. Our sergeant at arms today is Joel McCorkle. Oh, yeah, you may be seated. Usually I haven't had to announce that. Everybody just sat down on their own, but there's no added
You're
pressure.
up there now, we know better.
There's no added pressure with me now. It's okay.
So I'm not going to stand on a chair for this. And yeah, thank you. Clayton, you were right. Finding is just beginning. For those of you who don't know, Clayton is going to be our new special district judge. And associate special district judge. Yeah. So which we're excited about. But I'm going to go and fine you $5 for that shout out. Because I'm too scared to do it once you take the bench initially. So make sure you put that in. For Sergeant Sergeant Barnes, this is an opportunity for those of you who are guests that we raise money for our scholarships. Guests are exempt, members are not. And so we're going to do a few facts about the Artemis moon mission. Who all knew that was happening? Raise your hand. Okay, all right. Fewer people than I thought, but that's all right. So what is the main goal of NASA's Artemis program?
Circle the moon.
Circle the moon, all right. Very good.
No further than any meeting as well.
That's coming up. That's like question 4, so you got that one right. Good job. What is the name of the spacecraft that carries astronauts on the Artemis missions? Spacecraft.
Start with an I.
The AI said the name of the spacecraft. I I did not do any more research than asking AI.
We know it's right.
It is, Artemis 2 is the mission. The spacecraft is Orion, according to this. So, okay, the rocket that launches Artemis's mission toward the moon is what? I'm okay with the abbreviation. What is the name of it? It's a new type of rocket. It's never launched humans before.
It's a big rocket.
It is a big rocket. It is. I'm too actually all don't know this. It is the Space Launch System, or SLS. Okay. So, in a future Artemis mission, where on the moon are the Artemis astronauts planning to land? I heard a lot, but I did not hear anything.
Dark side.
The dark side. This is the lunar South Pole region. I'm assuming that means the dark side, the back side, the other side of the Earth. Very good. Get your dollars out. It goes to the foundation and or the scholarships. And there you go.
What about the Oklahoma who got the whole program started?
That wasn't in AI, so you have to take it up with it. Do you want to fill us in on that?
I don't know how to say his name. Bernstein? Bridenstine?
Oh, yes, yeah. Who has been here, or his chief of staff has been here before. All right.
Thank you very much. I think I'd like to sit down now. Our Rotarian of the day is Danny Murphy. Danny, you're here. All right, would you like a moment? All right. Our students of the month are Jenny Hyatt and Caleb McAbee. They're around. Thank you to our caterer, Tim Burnett. Wonderful as usual. I doubt there's any cookies left. If you didn't get one, that's on you. We have several guests here today. We have Jeff Thomas with Casa Kennedy. We have Doug Cox with Cherie Cox. Susan Cox with Cherie Cox as well. And we have Tony Revere with All right. If you have any announcements, please make your way to the stage now. Seeing none. Whoa. All right, here they come. Well, see, I knew there's at least one because we've been being recruited for a fishing tournament already before it started.
A reminder that the Education Committee will be meeting in the library right after lunch. Hopefully it won't take more than 30 minutes to pick our finalists.
Two things. One is we'll be selling Lobster Fest tickets today at the meeting, so come see Kathy in the back. I'll be back out with her. And also, if you remember our Rotary Madness party we had last month, we have some March Madness winners. And I'm going to say you have to be present to get your prize. So Amanda Davis, are you here? You're first place. I knew it. That's why I said that. Okay, I know the second place winners here. Tom Riggs, second place. Third place is Mary Richardson. All got gift cards to Goodfellas Pizza. Thanks.
In the spirit of supporting our community, a lot of you might not know we have a semi-pro football team that plays at the Grove Rich Runner Stadium. They're called the Oklahoma Hawks, and they're playing at 4 o'clock this Saturday. It's $10 for adults and less for children. I can't remember exactly what. They're playing the Missouri Cyclones, so let's go out and support them. Oh, and we might have some free tickets left at Grove's World Liquor. We need one.
Here we go again. We have a tournament coming up this Friday and Saturday. We're looking for volunteers to help launch boats. 5:30, Wolf Creek. We're expecting over 200 entries from all over the United States. This is a big deal for the city of Grove and for Grove Rotary to help launch these folks. So if you can come out 5:30, Friday and Saturday mornings at Wolf Creek, put you in.
Our guest speaker today is Billy Friend. He is the chief of the Wyandotte Nation. He served the Wyandotte Nation for 27 years, including his tenure as second chief from 2006 to 2011, and as chief since 2011. With more than 2 decades of proven leadership, he has guided the nation through substantial economic expansion and organizational growth. Under his direction, the Wyandotte Nation has grown to over 1,000 employees and now generates more than $200 million in annual revenue, strengthening the programs and services that benefit its citizens. In addition to his roles within the nation, Chief Friend serves as president of Wyandotte Gaming Enterprises and Wyandotte Technologies, and as vice chairman of the Oklahoma Indian Gaming Association, and he has also served on the Ohio History Connection Board of Trustees for the past 6 years, contributing to the preservation and interpretation of history and cultural heritage. Please welcome Chief Billy Friend.
Thank you. It's an honor always to be here at the Grove Rotary Club and to see a lot of familiar faces. And thankful for the opportunity today. And Wyandotte, I say, Kwe Mataru, Amenda Dura, Azache, Wandat Kwaiche, Yawiste. And I say, hello, my friends. My name is Amenda Dura. Wyandotte is who we are. And Yawiste means everything is good. And so you can remember that, Yawiste. Everything is good today. And so, talking today a little bit about the Wyandotte Nation and my name, Amenda Dura, is a Wyandotte word given to me through a traditional naming ceremony by our former chief, Lieber Bearskin, and it means he who talks for a very long time. I better check the time here, so be respectful of your time, but actually means his words have meaning. But it's kind of like when the pastor stands up, we're going to start in Genesis and work our way through Revelations, you're in trouble. But I'm going to start at 1535 and try to get us all the way through 2026 in a short amount of time. So when they said you've got 20 or 25 minutes to speak, I said, well, I can tell you everything I know and a few things I'm not sure about in 20 minutes. And so, just to share a little bit about the Wyandotte Nation and just about the history of tribal citizens and tribes in general in this area. Of course, we live in a very unique area in the fact that we've got 9 federally recognized tribes in one county, in Ottawa County, and of course the Senecas are in Ottawa and Delaware as well. But 9 tribes. We have 38 tribes in the state of Oklahoma, 39 if you count the tribal town Uchi there. So we have, not only that, but we have 575 tribes in the United States of America. And so we're very unique that we have 575 tribal nations within the boundaries of the United States. We're very unique in the state of Oklahoma that we have 38 sovereign nations within the boundaries of the state of Oklahoma. And so none of us are indigenous to the state of Oklahoma. And so when we talk about the Trail of Tears, it's not just the Cherokee Trail of Tears. Every tribe had their own Trail of Tears to get here. And so, we're in the midst of celebrating the sesquicentennial of the United States of America, the 250 years. And when we talk about history, I always like to tell people history is not for us to like, it's not for us to dislike. History is simply there for us to learn from. And if it offends you, even better, because if it offends us, we're less likely to repeat that. But it's not for ours to erase, it's not ours to destroy. History is what it is. And so when it comes to Native American history, it's not all pretty. And I'm not here, in tribal country we have activists and we have diplomats. And I'm here to tell you, I'm not an activist, I'm a diplomat. And I was told by a tribal elder many years ago, when it talks about looking back, she said, it's okay to look back, it's not okay to stare. And there's a lot of truth to that, because we look back long enough to learn from it and not repeat it. But if we look back and if we stare too long, we become bitter and we can become very resentful to what happened to our people. But the old pastor in me comes out sometimes. Romans 8:28 says, "All things work together for the good to those who love God and those who are called according to His purpose." It doesn't say that all things that happens is good. It says all things are working for our good. Everything that happened to the Wyandotte Nation was not good. There were a lot of bad things that happened to us, but it was working for our good to get us to the place that we're at today. There's no African parable that says, until the lion learns how to read, the story will always be told by the hunter. And there's a lot of truth to that as well. but there's two sides to every story. And the things about our tribal history was that our tribal history lay dormant for many years. I did not grow up knowing where the Wyandottes came from, who we are as a people, what our culture was, what our history, what our traditions. I did not have the opportunity to learn those growing up because they were no longer being told, because every federal policy that was enacted after the Indian Removal Act of 1830 had one thing in common, and that was to destroy our identity. But yet our identity is who we are. So when we talk about economic development, when we talk about tribal government, when we talk about tribal culture, without tribal culture, without identity, we don't have anything. And so it was very important for me when I became a leader at the tribe to go back and to make sure that we never had another generation that does not have the opportunity to know who we are as Wyandotte people. The Wyandotte, we are Iroquois, and so our language is from the Iroquois. We were not a part of the Iroquois Confederacy. We were actually part of the Huron Confederacy, and so the French called us Hurons. So anytime you hear the word Huron, it's referring to Wyandotte people. But part of the Haudenosaunee law, the great law of the Iroquois Confederacy, was that it specifically said in our every deliberation we must consider the impact of our decision upon the next 7 generations. And so we have what we call a 7-generation principle. And so we set out a few years ago, we sat down and we began to strategically talk about how we can continue to pass our culture and our history and these things down. We made a decision that what we do today is going to have an impact on the next 7 generations, and we have to remember that everything that we do is going to impact that far ahead. And you say, well, how do you know that there is a 7-generation impact? Because I can tell you the impact 7 generations had to go on my life. Because when I trace back my tribal heritage, and maybe I shared this story before, but I trace back to a white man by the name of Adam Brown, that in the 1751, he was captured by the Wyandottes when he was just a young boy. He was between the ages of 8 and 10 years old in Virginia. He was captured there and was taken to the Wyandottes, taken back to Michigan, where the Wyandottes were at that time. Adam Brown married a Wyandotte woman. Adam Brown had Wyandotte children. Adam Brown eventually became the village chief in a place called Brownstown. If you go to Detroit, Michigan today, just right outside of Detroit, there's a place called Brownstown. That was his village. It was named after him because he was the village chief. He signed 3 of the 19 treaties that the Wyandotte signed with the federal government. And so not only that, but Adam Brown was entrusted all of the treaties, all the tribal documents, all the wampum belts that told the stories. He was entrusted with all of that. Those were kept in his cabin in a trunk, and it was his responsibility each year to bring the young men and the young warriors in and teach them what that history meant, to teach them what the wampum belts meant, teach them what the treaties were, teach them where they could hunt and where they could fish. It was all entrusted to a white man. Well, Adam Brown had a son by the name of Samuel, who had a son by the name of John D., who named his son John D., who had a son by the name of Alpheus, who had a son by the name of Calvin, who had a daughter by the name of Beverly, who's my mother. I'm 7 generations from Adam Brown. So the things that Adam Brown did 7 generations ago has an impact upon me today and upon the tribe today. And now we have the resources. People say, well, how have you came so far in the last 20 years when it comes to your history and your knowledge and your culture and the things that you're doing today? What's the secret? I say money. Because it takes money to go out and to do. So now we're able to go to museums, we're able to go to libraries all across the United States and overseas. And there's first source documents in these places. There's artifacts. There's relics, things that belong to Wyandottes that are in these places that we have access to. Now through the NAGPRA Act, the Native American Graves and Repatriation Act, we're able to go through under that law and anything that's ceremonial or funerary, we're able to get those back in the tribe. We have them in our museum, a lot of those artifacts today. We just committed another $15 million to build a new cultural center and museum. because it's important for us that the next generation and 7 generations ahead have the opportunity to know what it means to be Wyandotte. We had first contact, our people did, with a French Jesuit priest in 1535. In 1649 and 1650, the war broke out called the Beaver Wars, and we had a war with the Iroquois Confederacy, and it was all over beaver pelts, because beaver pelts were a very wanted item in France and overseas at that time, and the war broke out. We sided with the French, and they sided with the Dutch. They had guns, and we didn't, so we lost. And so we went from about 20 to 30,000. We were decimated down to less than 5,000 through those wars. In 1701, we gathered once again 3 of the bands of the Huron Confederacy, the Tignawanton, the Tianati, and the Windrow. They gathered in 1701, and they became what we call today Wyandotte, or Wyandotte, as it's transformed over the years. In 1701, Antoine de la Motte Cadillac, a French explorer, he asked the Wyandottes and several other tribes in that area to come together to help establish a fort called Fort Pontchartrain, where they could not only defend the area, but they could also have a trading post. The Wyandottes became the keepers of the council fire. We were known for our wisdom. We were known for our warfare and the things that we were very good at. And so when the tribes would gather in a place called Big Rock, right outside of Brownstown there, they would ask the Wyandottes to head up those meetings. We were always the first to war and the last to lead the battle. And these things we never knew until the last 15 or 20 years. That's why it's so important. And of course, we were there, we began to migrate into Ohio, and so the Wyandottes were in Ohio and Michigan. Of course, the Western expansion after the Revolutionary War took place, and with that became the Western expansion. And so after the Revolutionary War, the United States was broke, they had no money. They had just defeated the largest empire in the world at that time. So they didn't have any money to pay their soldiers. And so what did they give their soldiers? They gave them land grants. Depending on their rank in the army and what their rank was, they were given certain, you get 40 acres, or you get 60 acres, or 80 acres. You got to go west of the Appalachians to get it. And so where was it? It was in Michigan. It was in Ohio. It was what was called the Northwest Territory at that time. What was already there? You had a lot of tribes already there. The Wyandottes were there. And so all of a sudden people are showing up, and they're showing up on tribal lands, and they've got a document in their hand that means nothing to tribes. They can't read it, they can't interpret it, they don't know what it is. They just know that people showing up and saying, this is our land. And so what would happen at that time? War. You begin to fight for what is yours. You know, I always say, if somebody shows up in my backyard and camps out in a tent, I go out, and I say, what are you doing in my yard? Well, I'm just here for a few days. And then 3 or 4 days later, there's 4 or 5 tents out there. In a month, I've got 30 tents out there, and they're telling me, you're going to have to leave. This is our land now. I'm going to get my 410 shotgun out, I guess. I don't know what else. But that was what was happening at that time. And so, you know, when the story is told, it wasn't always told from the Native viewpoint. And so Tecumseh forms an alliance of tribes. Tecumseh was a Shawnee warrior. He forms an alliance of tribes, which most all of those tribes are here today. We are all Woodlands tribes. The Shawnee, the Miamis, the Peorias, the Ottawas, the Odawa, all of those tribes that are here today. We joined forces with Tecumseh. In 1790, George Washington sends an army led by Jacob Harmer, General Jacob Harmer. They come upon the alliance. The alliance completely decimates them. 1791, he sends a general by the name of Arthur St. Clair. They come with an army of Americans. They meet at the Battle of Wabash, the Wabash River. They suffered the worst defeat an American army had ever suffered. They had almost 90% casualties. And so President Washington, General George Washington, President Washington, he enlists the service of Anthony Wayne. General Anthony Wayne, also known as Mad Anthony Wayne. Also, Fort Wayne, Indiana is named after Anthony Wayne. And so he trains a legion for the first time. He trains a legion of soldiers. And they meet in a place called the Battle of Fallen Timbers. It's right outside of Toledo, Ohio. We take our youth there about every other summer. We walk that battlefield because it was the most significant battle to take place when it comes to tribes in that area. And Anthony Wayne defeated the tribal alliance there at Fallen Timbers. It's right on the Maumee River. And it was there that the Wyandottes lost every chief except for one. We lost 12 chiefs. Chief Tarhay was the only survivor. The Wyandottes were the last to leave the battlefield that day. But it created a turning point because that was 1794 and 1795. Chief Tarhay went to the treaty signing, the Treaty of Greenville, which was one of the largest treaties, one of the biggest land grabs that ever taken place. And Chief Tarhay was the first to speak that day, and he was the first to sign the treaty. And in that speech, he said, "It's time that we lay down our arms and we'll no longer take up arms against the U.S. again. Because it doesn't matter how many battles that we win, they're going to continue to come. We've got to learn to live at peace with them." And he became committed to peace. We eventually signed all of our land away except for a small area there in Upper Sandusky, Ohio Today we have land, we own land in Upper Sandusky, Ohio. It was where the first Methodist mission was established. The first Methodist missionary was a missionary to the Wyandottes in 1819. He was a black man by the name of John Stewart. How ironic that God would send a black man to save the red man. But it was because the white men that had came and tried to give the gospel to them, they were all hypocrites. The Catholics would come and they would tell the Indians not to drink liquor, but then they would go out and see them drinking liquor. And so they recognized that. And so John Stewart came and established the first Methodist mission. The mission was built there after he died, and the mission that's still standing today. In fact, I'll be there in June speaking at an event there at the old mission church. The Methodists actually deeded that land back over to us and deeded that church back over to us. It was built in 1824, but it was built with government funds. The government had a fund called the Civilization Fund, and they received $1,333 from the Civilization Fund to build that church. And that became the turning point of our nation. We stayed there until 1843. We were the last tribe to leave Ohio. We were promised 148,000 acres in what today is Kansas City, Kansas, Wyandotte County. We get on steamships. We board on riverboats in Cincinnati, Ohio. We take them to St. Louis. There we get on riverboats, and we go from St. Louis to Missouri. The riverboat captains, they didn't like the fact that the tribe was on. There were 664 Wyandottes at that time. They dropped them off in the middle of the night in Kansas City. They dropped us off on the wrong side of the river. They dropped us off on Westport. We should have been over on the other side. And so our people had to make it back across. But they woke up the next morning to only realize that 148,000 acres had already been given away. And so now we're strangers in a strange land. We have 664 people that live on the riverbanks that winter. We lost 100 citizens during that time. They are buried today in what is a National Historic Landmark in Kansas City, Kansas, right downtown. It's called the Huron Cemetery. We were in Kansas City till 1867. We signed our final treaty. Once again, the U.S. came in, took the land because we had 25,000 acres is what we ended up with there on a reservation. It was right on the confluence of the Missouri and the Kaw River. And so you had the railroad coming through, you had a lot of things happening, but in the 24 years we were in Kansas City, during that time, it was before Kansas became a state. And when it was a Nebraska territory, the first territorial governor of the Nebraska territory was a Wyandotte citizen by the name of William Walker Jr. The first Masonic lodge was in the state of Kansas was established by two Wyandottes, the Walker brothers. The largest underground railroad where they would bring the slaves across from Missouri at night undercover. They would bring them across to Kansas City. The first free port was established by the Wyandottes. It was called Quindaro. After one of my relatives, her name was Nancy Quindaro Brown. Quindaro is a Wyandotte word that means bundle of sticks, which means there's strength and unity. We left, we arrived in Oklahoma in 1867. We purchased 20,000 acres from the Seneca Cayuga, and that is our reservation today. When we come to Oklahoma, we had a little less than 300 tribal citizens. Today we have 7,310 tribal citizens. And today we continue to grow in governmentally, economically. But for the first several years, it was very lean. And people really, they ask, what is the difference? How has tribes been able to grow like they have in the last several years? And I always say it goes back to Richard Nixon. In July 8, 1970, Richard Nixon gives a joint address before Congress. And Richard Nixon always had an affinity toward Native American people, just as Robert Kennedy and John Kennedy did as well. But Richard Nixon, in that speech, he said, the time has come that we break decisively with the past. The time has come to create new conditions for a new era in which the Indian's future is determined by Indian decisions and Indian acts. And that became the beginning of what we call self-governance. In 1975, it was passed under Gerald Ford, President Ford, the Indian Self-Determination and Assistance Act. And what that act did was it made it lawful at that time. All the decisions before that on behalf of tribes was made by the federal government. Richard Nixon says, let's let the Indians make the decisions themselves. It's their future. And so today, most of the tribes in this area are what we call self-governance. We signed our first self-governance compact in 1994, and then we signed our next one in 1995. In 1994, in the year 2000, President Bill Clinton also, he signed amendments to the act to further strengthen the Indian Self-Determination Education Act. And what that allows, what happened was, used to all the federal funds that was set aside, and people always say, well, why does the federal government owe the tribes anything? Why do they owe the Wyandottes anything? Well, they signed 19 contracts with us. The treaties are the highest law of the land according to the Constitution. They signed, and in those treaties, they made certain promises, and it created what we call treaty obligations, and it created what we call a trust responsibility to tribes. But what took place before self-governance and before self-determination was those federal funds would go to the IHS, Indian Health Service, or would go to the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and then they would provide those services to tribes. What self-governance and self-determination changed was now those monies come directly to the tribes, and we allocate that money ourselves. It takes all the federal restrictions. There's still federal restrictions. We're still restricted on how we spend those dollars. But it gives us the ability to determine where they're best spent. Because we are around our tribal citizens every day. We know what the needs are. And so instead of some bureaucrat in Washington, D.C. telling us how to spend those dollars, we spend them ourselves in the best way possible. And we're much better stewards with those dollars than the federal government does. And so the Wyandotte Nation, we're in 3 different divisions. We have the government division, which has over 200 employees today. We have our cultural division that's separate from the government, and we have 10 employees there today. Then we have economic development, which we have over 800 employees employed today. And so those 3 different divisions are all very important. They create synergy with one another, because everything that we do governmentally, everything that we do culturally has to have money to support it. And so that's why economic development is so important today. And so we have 4 things that we look at today. When we sat down a few years ago and did our strategic planning, how do we get Wyandotte citizens to move back to Oklahoma? We have 7,310. We only have about 1,000 that live in our service area in northeast Oklahoma. Why would a Wyandotte want to pull up and move back to Oklahoma? Well, number one, you've got to have a quality education system. And so, because people, if they're going to move here, they want to know there's a good school for their kids to go to. In the last 4 years, we've committed over $10 million to the Wyandotte public school system. We're getting ready to spend another $20 million in the next 3 years at the Wyandotte public school system. Those are not federal dollars, those are tribal dollars that we're spending ourselves, because we believe in what the public system, or the public school is doing for that area. Not only that, one of the neatest things that I think that we've ever done as a board of directors, last year we went to the Wyandotte Public School because it's a very economically depressed area in which we live. There's not a lot of money, and so we went to the Wyandotte school superintendent and I said, how much last year did you make at the gate of all your athletic events? Baseball, softball, wrestling, whatever it is. And he came back with a number, and he said, last year we made $66,000 off the gate at all these events. I went to the board of directors. We gave the school a check for $70,000 and said nobody pays to get in any events this year. It's free. And you wouldn't believe how big a difference that makes for some families in our area. The second thing that people need, they're going to need a job. If they're going to move back to Oklahoma, I've got to have a place to work. We've created over 500 jobs in our area there in the northeast part of Oklahoma where we're at today. They're going to need a house because they need housing. They've got to have affordable housing. We've built over 140 houses since 2007. I think we've doubled the population of Wyandotte. They're going to need a place to stay. We're going to need quality health care because they're going to need access to health care. We had great health care until Dr. Cox left us. Now we're still good, but Dr. Cox was a part of our clinic for several years. And so in the last 4 years, we've been able to basically triple the size of the services that we provide there locally at Bearskin Healthcare and Wellness Center. Because they're looking for health care, jobs, education, and housing. And so this is our focus today and what we focus on as a tribe. And those four things there, we want to integrate our culture in everything that we do. And so whether it's healthcare, whether it's housing, if you go to our housing in our neighborhoods, all the streets are named after tribal clans, or they're named after former tribal chiefs or former places that the tribe used to be. If you go to our park, we have our tribal clans. We've got a bear out there, we've got a wolf, we've got a turtle, all the things that are important to our people in the past, so that when our kids are out there playing on the playground, they're still being exposed to our tribal culture. And then economically, of course, we operate, 5 convenience stores, the Turtle Stop brand. We have 2 in Grove, we have 1 in Fairland, we have 1 in Seneca, and 1 in Wyandotte. And that was our first economic development project back in the mid-'80s. We have 3 casinos. We have Riverbend Casino, of course, in Wyandotte. We have 7th Street Casino in Kansas City, Kansas. And we have Crosswinds Casino in Wichita, Kansas. We have a company called Wyandotte Technologies. We do federal contracting with the federal government. We're in 15 different states across America in those federal contractings. And we also do local business that provides surveillance and security services to local businesses in this area. We also opened up True Value Hardware store there in Wyandotte for the community there to be able to provide that service to the community. And so everything that we do economically helps us provide the services that we provide back to our tribal citizens. Every Wyandotte youth that's eligible for a scholarship, that's getting ready to go to college, we provide $6,000 a semester all the way through a doctoral program if they want to go that far with their education. Of course, we provide all kinds of services to our elders, from housing to free meals each day. We serve over 230 meals at our senior center each day. And so those are some of the services that we're able to provide. We also do a lot of other things. We have our own police department. Our police, we were the first tribe in the state of Oklahoma to take over a municipality to provide police services. We provide police services for the town of Wyandotte. We're also cross-deputized with Ottawa County. And we had our reservation affirmed on March the 7th, 2024. And so we have an official reservation again, which we see in our caseload in our court system go up 118% over the last year. And so any native that commits a crime within the reservation boundaries is now adjudicated through our court system. I think I've reached my limit. I talk real fast if you can listen real fast. So I'll turn it back over. If there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
I have a question. In the last 20 years, you've moved the power out grounds around a few times.
Yes.
Where is it going to be ultimately, and what are your plans for it?
we're permanently, we've been at our present location for several years now. It's on Highway 60. We purchased 153 acres there for our cultural grounds, and so we just completed a $2 million project. We received an ICDBG and then Community Development Block Grant, and we just did a remodel. We paved all the parking out there. We built new restrooms. We put an awning all the way around the visitor seating there, and made a lot of improvements out there. And we're also going to build our new cultural center and museum on that same property out there. It's kind of diagonal from Indigo Sky there.
When do you anticipate the cultural center opening?
We're about 45% through our architectural drawings now, and so we would like to think that in probably 2 years, 2.5 years, it'll be complete. We have a current center now. We've just outgrown it. But if you've never been there, it's right there in our complex.
Chief, I have no Native American blood, but you talked about all the things you've done for your people in your tribe. 6 years ago, during the COVID epidemic, I want to thank you because you offered to give anyone who had a COVID shot when you couldn't get it in place. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you. That's, one of the things that really is different about us. Our tribal clinic is open to the community. It's not just, we're one of the few Indian clinics in the state of Oklahoma that we provide services to non-Indians as well. And so, we have a saying around our tribal headquarters that we operate by a 4-letter word. That 4-letter word is C-A-R-E. We care for one another, we care for our tribal citizens, and we care for our community. And we feel like that anything that we do at the tribe has to also benefit the community that we live in. And so, everything that we do, it also is made available to community members as well. But thank you.
Well, as a physician, I want to point out that while you have a lot of economic development, you're one of the few tribes that is not involved in the tobacco industry, the #1 cause of premature death and preventable illness, so I commend you for that. And also I want to say how much I appreciate your philosophy and your predecessors. I believe the saying is, and the tribe lived by everybody as somebody. I think that's a great saying. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Another round of applause for All right, next week's program will be Jonas Rabel with Integris Hospital. As for the chairs, we will stack wood chairs 8 high and we'll put out 7 metal chairs. If you'll please stand and join me for the 4-way test as we adjourn. And of the things we think, say, or do,
is fair to all concerned, with goodwill and better friendships, will be beneficial to all concerned.
Say hi.